Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janey Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi and welcome to the podcast, and Happy New Year all over again. If this is the first Alcohol Free Life podcast of 2021 that you're listening to, and this week I thought, a lot of people are doing dry January, maybe again for the millionth time. Some of us went round the block a lot of times. I thought I'd give you a few tips as to what might help you out, and also I'm going to be interviewing Tom from Wise Bartender. Everyone knows by now that I one of the things I bang on about is keep the ritual, change the ingredients. So yes, still have a nice drink. This kind of depriving yourself thing of trying to just have a cup of tea or have an orange juice when everyone else is opening bottles that pop and, having liquid that bubbles doesn't always do it for you. And the little inner toddler says, well, that's not fair. So we need to keep that fairness. And at least in the early weeks, we need to remind ourselves that we can have lovely drinks that do not need to involve alcohol. So I thought it'd be a great idea to get Tom to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the world of alcohol-free drinks, because it sure is a changing market. And, he's kind of got his finger on the pulse across all the brands. And so he's going to be sharing a few of those things with us later on. Also, of course, I want to tell you about the book, Happy, Healthy, Sober, Ditch the Booze and Take Control of Your Life. If I got my act together, I would have got myself interviewed, if you see what I mean. I would have had someone interview me, and then I could have talked about the book. But I didn't get my act together, just so you know. I'm totally, as my website says, imperfect, imperfectly natural. So I'll have to tell you myself. But rather than talking about myself and bigging myself up, I thought I'd remind you that this book is chock full of other of contributors and just amazing experts. I do feel really blessed that I've been able to reach out to a bunch of people whose work I really respect, and I don't think anyone said no. Actually, I'm quite lucky, aren't I? And they all contributed sections for the book. At one point, it was starting to look like there was none of me in there. But I just think it's really important to bring you all these different viewpoints. So, you very much get my story, of course, and there's a full kind of 30-day challenge, and there's a ton of stuff around my kind of tips, I suppose, for want of a better word, what I've learned, and I've done a ton of training around the logic that you need to ditch the booze. So how you really get your head around the fact that this is worth doing, but also, of course, the inspiration. And there's just a huge amount in there. So if you are starting out, it's perfect for you. But if you've been sober for absolutely ages, the book is also just as relevant, because the lifestyle section is just absolutely massive. And as I say, it's not just what I did, because that may or may not work for you. There's a lot of stories from other people with what worked for them, and a lot of experts who are saying, giving us the expert view, the clinical trial stuff, the what their professional opinion is, which wouldn't be great if I'm trying to do that, all of that work. One of the best reviews I saw was saying that someone said they thought it was a little bit like having me in their ear, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but if you'll enjoy the podcast, hopefully you'll enjoy the style of the book, 'cause it's written, in a similar kind of way. Anyways, I just wanted to let you know, and also use this podcast as a way of thanking a few of my contributors. So still with the drinks, which links very nicely to this week's show with Tom from Wise Bartender. We do talk, of course, in the book about what to drink when you're not drinking. And to that end, of course, I've got some recipes in there and some great suggestions for creating alcohol-free cocktails and for all kinds of healthy drinks. And I've got a little section from Camille Vidal from La Maison Wellness, who's been a podcast guest, of course. And there's a couple of recipes courtesy of Sea Arch, and a really nice section on the kind of the way you can literally lift your spirits with alcohol-free drinks, so mood-boosting drinks, and that's been written by Vanessa from Sensor Spirits. And then on nutrition, well, I mean, there's just masses in the book on nutrition. And again, I didn't want it to be only my take on it. So we've got a section in there from Janet Thompson, the creator of the placebo diet. And that's going to be particularly interesting for you if you also want to focus on balancing your weight. And I'll just say, for what it's worth, if you are doing dry January, do not focus on weight loss. You can't do two things at once. Focus on ditching the booze. Worry about, balancing or getting to your ideal weight later, because it will come, but it won't come straight away. So, but Janet Thompson's approach is fantastic and really relatable. And also Star Kashara, who again has written a fantastic section for me and has been a podcast guest. And she talks about the power of, fruit, really. That's her thing. She talks about the facelift diet and how you can really look to anti-aging just with what you eat. And of course, I would say that the absolute best anti-aging secret of all is ditching the booze. We've also got Dr. Gemma Newman, who's contributed, the Plant Power Doctor, and it's brilliant to have a doctor. We've got several doctors contributing, but I love Gemma's contribution because she kind of goes across all the kind of conventional medical stuff, but she brings in her own take on it and talks about the power of plants and introducing more plants into your diet. And then from a naturopathic perspective, Katie Rowan, the family naturopath, gives us some great tips, actually. She also gives us some amazing recipes, kind of fairly simple things that we can just introduce into our everyday diet. But that section's really great. Kira Jean Roberts, another naturopath and also a yoga teacher, I think she's written two sections for me. There's a little section on yoga, and there's also a section on the power of the breath and how we can just use our breath effectively. We've got a section on energy from Caroline Shola Ariwa. We've got a section on essential oils. I mean, who'd have thought, right? But we can use essential oils for, obviously, we can pop them in the bath, we can use them for massage, but we can also use them for meditation. And someone who's really knowledgeable about all of this is Heather Dawn Godfrey. So that's a really great section. Jolene Park explains exactly what grey area drinkers are. I was most certainly one. You possibly are too, if you're listening to this podcast. This conventional thinking that, we've all been brainwashed to think that there's just two types of drinkers. There's those at rock bottom who clearly need alcohol services and rehab, and then there's just everybody else, happy social drinkers. And of course, the reality is absolutely not that. It's a spectrum. And Jolene Park does a little contribution around that. We've got quite a bit on mindset, meditation, as I'm sure you'd imagine. Glenn Harold does a piece on hypnotherapy and exactly how that works. We've got Neil Shah from the Stress Management Society, who offers some really simple, sometimes things are simple, but they're still kind of profound, right? Some really simple tips for managing stress. So important right now, because who isn't stressed at the moment? Seriously, who isn't stressed? And we have to find ways to manage it. We have to find ways to take care of ourselves. And Neil gives us some really good tips in there on in the book on how we can just do small things which help to change our perspective. And on that note of kind of changing our state, it's something I've been talking about a lot recently. I've interviewed fantastic shaman, Yakov Darling Khan. I'm going to be bringing you that podcast soon. And he talks about the importance of changing your state through movement and, literally getting up, just get back into the body, get out of your head and get into your body and move your body. You might have seen him on the telly. He was on This Morning recently and did a little bit of movement medicine with with the presenters on this morning. And it's so true. We get so caught up in our thoughts and our fears and our anxiety. Of course we do. And then we keep repeating the negative thoughts. And the best way to just change that, just break the spiral, is to just drop into the body and move. If you can get out for a walk in nature, of course, that's great. If you can lie down, that's great. Do some yoga stretches or just move. Put some music on and move. So we've got a fair bit in the book about how we change our state. Nadia Smith has written us a brilliant piece on tweenar massage and trauma release exercise, which in its simplest version is shaking out the body. We've got Helena Cavan from the Milestone Detox. I've interviewed Helena a bunch of times on the podcast because she's so knowledgeable about alternatives to sugar. There's no doubt, and particularly if you're starting dry January, you will know that you get a sugar head on. You really do when you stop drinking, because again you're kind of crying out for all that sugar that you're missing from not having the alcohol. So how do we deal with that? Of course, a lot of it is what's going on in our head, but there's also sometimes a real craving. And as Helena says, we're not always actually craving the sugar. We're craving sweetness in our lives. We don't need the sugar for fuel, for energy. We've got tons of that, most of us. But we do need the sweetness, in inverted commas. And she gives us some really great suggestions as to how we can find some healthier alternatives to sugar. She also talks about water and the importance of exactly how much we should drink. And what type of water. Then we've got Ewan McLennan, who again was a podcast guest, giving us some really great information on adaptogens and the right kind of herbs that we can bring into our diet. Katie Brindle from Heyu Method talks about gua sha massage and again the importance of moving your body and energy techniques. And let me see, I've got a list in front of me. Oh, Carla McLaren, she was a podcast guest. I loved interviewing Carla McLaren, talking about the importance of embracing emotions. And I mean, in a way, Carla's podcast interview summed up much of which I talk about all my life, which is literally that we have to look at what feelings we are trying to recreate, and we have to find a way to sit with our own emotions. And this is what we've all been not doing for so long. Well, not all of us, but many of us. Most of us were never encouraged as children to accept our emotions, to sit with our emotions. It was really a case of, fear, anxiety, anger, stress, is jealousy are bad. They're bad emotions, and feeling happy is good. But unfortunately, we have a range. We have them all, and have to find a way of making friends with them. Carla's book is called Embracing Anxiety, and that was one of my favourite podcasts of last year. So check it out if you haven't heard it. And she writes a section for us in the book as well. And then on a completely different note, but so important in the whole picture, is creativity and sort of finding your purpose. And you will have heard me say tons of times that one of the best things you can do when you ditch the booze is use your time wisely. You will find that suddenly, there are 2 6 o'clocks in one day. Maybe not every day for you, but, sometimes. And you will have extra time, and you'll definitely have more bandwidth. You'll expand, you'll have more joy in your life, because let's face it, alcohol steals your joy. And when some of that mojo starts to come back, we can find our creativity. And this doesn't have to mean that you have to become a writer or an artist or a musician. Creativity can mean so many different things. So there's a piece in there from Sharon Walters, London artist, who I, again, interviewed on the podcast a while back. And who else can I tell you about? There's some stuff on fitness in there from a fitness expert who is also into sobriety, and a piece on Pilates from Beverly Densham. As I've already mentioned, yoga's in there. There's a piece on kindness from Dr. David Hamilton. And we even talk about cacao ceremonies. I mean, I know this is all very random. It is in some order in the book. But we talk about how amazing chocolate is, basically, and the importance of good chocolate, and how you can even create your own cacao ceremony. So there's a lovely piece from Rebecca Sharman and also from Joe DeRosa, and then back on the kind of more logic piece, as it were, and the what alcohol really does to you, and how it affects us in society. I've got a piece in there from Dr. Arik Sigman. Again, that was one of my favourite podcasts, where Arik, who does a lot of work in schools and with education, just helps us, those of us who are parents, who I think this can be one of the biggest stresses for people, is wondering how they're going to deal with their kids drinking. And Arik gives us some great tips in the podcast I did with him ages ago. We talk about NLP. As you know, I'm now trained as an NLP practitioner. I love using NLP in my one-to-one coaching. It makes a massive difference. And there's a great section on NLP with Joe Wilson and Andy Coley from Beyond NLP. They explain how it works, but they also give a really interesting example of a kind of a technique we can all use for ourselves to help us with our mindset. And also EFT. Again, I'm trained as a emotional freedom technique practitioner. That's the tapping thing, if you've heard of that. And the guy who trained me, Peter Don, has written a piece on EFT. I think it's so much better if you get the experts to really write this stuff, so you really get the expert take on what's really going on. Back on drinking. What to drink when you're not drinking. Laura Willoughby from Club Soda has written a great piece for us in the book. Club Soda do such an amazing amount of work, campaigning and lobbying and all of that around alcohol-free drinks being much more available. William Porter, author of Alcohol Explained, does a fantastic piece in the book about cravings and really helps us to understand, okay, so what exactly is a craving? If you've just started dry January, you're probably going through this right now. And, as William explains in the book, after the first few days when the alcohol has left your body, they're thoughts. Cravings are just thoughts. And that doesn't mean they're not powerful ones. And they don't tip us up, but they are just thoughts. And somebody was saying in the Sober Club, one of the Sober Club members was saying she was, determined to do dry January, just about to come on one of our Zoom coaching calls that we have in the Sober Club, and her partner or son or whatever it was asked her, we've had a busy day, let's open a bottle of wine, and immediately the thought comes in, right, yeah, I'll do that. And that was it. It was kind of over that quickly. And that's how it can work unless you think ahead and do your prep. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. So, William Porter's done a really good piece for us, aimed more at the younger audience, or for people with younger, teenagers and young people in their family. I've got a section from Millie Gooch from Sober Girls Society. Millie was a podcast guest as well, and she's got her own book out too. And there must be more. There's a lot, isn't there? My goodness, when I see the list. And then we've got a section on well-being sort of generally, so we even look at kind of natural skincare, and we look at the menopause, of course, something that affects so many people, not just women, because the guys have got to live with us too, but perimenopause and the menopause. And so we've got some great contributions in there from Dr. Hannah Short and from Lucy Blenkinsop as well, who also, very much links the sobriety piece with menopause, which is exactly right, in my opinion. Thank you to Holly Holden, who contributed to the book as well. Anyways, I mean, that's probably enough for now. I think you get the idea that even if you've heard my story before, there is so much in this book. I'm kind of proud of it because it really does give that holistic approach to sobriety. So it doesn't matter if you are on day one or you're sober curious, or you are, you've been sober for years and years. If you're interested in health and well-being and looking at that from, as natural and holistic approach as possible, then there'll be something there for you. So let's hear our interview with Tom from Wise Bartender, and then I'll give you just a few tips if you're doing dry January to keep you going. So I'm really pleased that my guest is Tom from Wise Bartender. And you disappeared, Tom. Welcome. I haven't spoken to you in ages, Tom. We've been trying loads of your drinks and talking about you a lot and recommending you a lot, but I haven't spoken to you in a while. So just for anyone who's not aware of you and your amazing work, just remind us, of what you do and how you came to start Wise Bartender.
You were probably there quite near at the start, actually. So Wise Bartender was launched in October 2017. My background was actually public health. It's kind of through working in that field and the awareness of just everyone needing to cut down on their alcohol consumption as a country, really, that we could do a little bit more to help bring some great alcohol-free options available to people. At the time, kind of what was available in the supermarkets wasn't fantastic. It has improved a lot more now. And when you went online, unfortunately, you had to buy drinks by the case. You couldn't try a single bottle. So that was very much the ethos of Wise Bartender, and still is to this day. It's about accessibility in trying to just expand the range and, get all the drinks that people miss that are usually carry alcohol, but don't need to. And I think the last year it's been really good. What we've really seen now is it's not just drinks that are alcohol free, it's drinks that taste really good that happen to be alcohol free. So we've seen a kind of real evolution of the drinks in recent months.
It must have been amazing for you, actually, because you were, as you say, you were sort of in it a few years ago when it was just starting to take off. But really, even just in the last, since I stopped drinking 3 years ago, the rise in the choice of alcohol-free drinks is just massive, isn't it? It must be quite hard for you to keep up.
Yeah, no, it has. The last 12 months in particular, it's really kind of, just gone crazy. There's been so many alcohol-free spirits which have come to market. And it just at the moment, particularly in January, such a big month for alcohol-free beers. If anyone knows a few breweries, you're probably seeing that more and more are having at least an alcohol-free offering. It's becoming the norm, which is fantastic. It does make our job a little bit harder because we've only got a set amount of space, which is filled at the moment. But we've had some great problems to have. You having to choose which ones to stop and which ones are the best ones and ones that people want. So it's been a fantastic sort of 12 months for alcohol free.
And what's been interesting, of course, is that we've seen the really big players, do their thing. So obviously Heineken, they reported record sales, didn't they, for Heineken Zero? Just incredible sales. I think it even overtook their beers at one point, they were saying, in some of their marketing. And now we've seen companies like Gordon's bring out a gin. That must have been fascinating for you to see.
Yeah, but it's not a surprise as well because, it just kind of reaffirms what we already know, that it is a market that is growing. It's a market space that people are interested in. And I think we're having less of those questions where people just go, why alcohol free? What's the point? We just don't get those anymore, which is really refreshing. People understand it. It's about choice. And, for some people, they will choose to abstain from alcohol completely, and for others it's about having nights off in the week, and it's whatever suits you, really.
Of course.
And it's fantastic that it's an accepted option, and we're just hoping that we can help a little bit with rolling that kind of mantra out in the trade as well when the trade label backs it back up. So that's our as well.
Well, interestingly enough, one of the questions that one of the Sober Club members asked was, she was saying that, the local bars, there's lots of alcohol-free beers. This is something I've found that sort of when we're able to go to bars and restaurants, there's always, one or two alcohol-free beers. Occasionally you get the odd botanical in there, Seedlip is typically in some bars. But there's really almost never anything else. There's never any alcohol-free wine or alcohol-free fizz. Why is that?
I think, I mean, the last year's obviously been difficult for the on-trade anyway.
Of course,
so for them,
yeah.
it's the mantra for them has very much been about surviving. So it's difficult to push too many new drinks. I think the fact that a bar has alcohol-free beers is a really encouraging start. It means that at least they're open to the idea of alcohol-free alternatives. So, feel free to have a conversation with the landlord or whoever's behind the bar and suggest some other alternatives. Still, if you've got alcohol-free beers, why not try a cider or a wine or whatever? The wines you can get in single serves now, so it's low risk for them. They can just pop them in the fridge and pull them straight out.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, there's sort of the Bell & Co Fizz. That's a single serve bottle. Wildlife Botanics, which is like a botanical fizzy wine. That can be in a single serve bottle as well. So it's relatively low risk. But if they're stocking beers, then that's a fantastic sign that they're
it is. It's very positive. And they've all got much better at having really good artisan tonics and stuff, because at one time the only thing you could get was your sort of NAFOLD tonic with artificial sweetener in it. And most places now do have a really good premium offering there, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, just look at the way the tonic industry's grown over
exactly. Who
so
doesn't wish they'd invested in Fever Tree?
absolutely, yeah.
Totally. Just for anyone who is new to this whole scene, could you just tell us again? I know you've told us lots of times, but just tell us again how the labeling works, because it can be confusing, and we do still, time after time, get people saying, "Oh, I've ditched the booze. I want to buy this product, but it says 0.5%. Does that mean it has alcohol in it? Should I be avoiding it?" So how would you answer that, just explain the labeling for us?
Yeah, no, I'll do my best. Unfortunately, it's not a quick answer.
No, I know.
And it may get a little bit complicated following Brexit as well. So,
oh God, yeah, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, so within the UK, there is some labelling guidelines, but they're just guidelines. So we've actually got no law around how drinks should be labelled. Anything below 1.2% can be labelled low alcohol. Anything below 0.5 can be labelled de-alcoholized. Anything below 0.05 can be labelled alcohol-free. But that is all guidance. EU guidance, which obviously up until a few days ago we were part of, states that anything below 0.5 can be alcohol-free. So we've already got some differing levels there. And the reason for that, there's lots of different reasons. There's a really complicated argument. So first of all, we've got things like licensing laws within the country, which state anything below 0.5 is alcohol-free as well. So that conflicts with it. But also research around the benefits of drinks with low amounts of alcohol show that anything up to 1.2 is the cutoff where the alcohol starts doing more harm for you than any other goodness. So in some countries, you'll actually find, I think Spain, they go up to 1%. So really, we do need a consistent view within the UK and even wider, to be honest, as to what the accepted level is. You do need a level of tolerance, but I guess the jury's out on what that level of tolerance should be. But 0.5 seems to be the commonly accepted kind of level that people are happy with. For me personally, I think it sits at quite a good level, 0.5. It's the natural ABV of our gut as well. So for the vast majority of the population, if you're drinking anything at 0.5 or below, it's not going to be affecting you negatively.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth pointing out, this phrase that people churn out, but it is important that you would find that amount in a banana or in some bread or in some orange juice. It's trace amounts of alcohol. It's not like choosing a small amount of an alcoholic drink. It ain't going to mess with your head, right?
No, exactly. And alcohol is going to be present anywhere where there's yeast or sugar.
Yes.
So any food you can think of with yeast or sugar, and there's going to be an amount of alcohol within it. It's a naturally occurring byproduct. So and I guess for a lot of people, it's getting their head around that and just understanding sort of the chemistry behind the food and drinks that we enjoy.
Yeah, but what I do think is interesting then is that there's a whole bunch of drinks then that you sell and that we can get in some supermarkets that are 0.5. So as you say, and mostly they're de-alcoholized. So the process is that they start life with alcohol and the alcohol is taken out. But then there are also some drinks, as we know, that are 0%. So presumably that means they don't ever start life with that same process, if you sort of mean. So can you just talk us through that? I mean, are they, in inverted commas, better or just different?
Yeah, I think first of all, they're just different. Yeah, there's a number of techniques that can be employed with sort of making drinks, whether you're aiming for a 0.0 or 0.5 version. You'll find a lot of the beers aim for 0.5. The reason for that is that small amount of alcohol does help to carry the flavour as well, and they're also brewed to extremely low ABV, so they use a special strain of yeast, and then they can cut off the fermentation process before it starts getting too alcoholic. So that's why you see a lot of beers that are 0.5. Some other things like the wines that become dealcoholized, they get spun through cones at a really fast speed, and so essentially the alcohol gets spun out of them. There is a brand, Smash Drinks, that are based up in Manchester, and they use that technology on their beers and ciders as well. So they've produced 0.05% beers and ciders using that cone spinning technology as well. And then I guess the old-fashioned way, which I think some brewers still use, is kind of like a vacuum heated approach, where you steadily heat the liquid and then you can just suck off the alcohol. You do risk spoiling the liquid with that a little bit, because obviously you're cooking it again. But that technique is still used, particularly by some of the European brewers.
But then, as I say, there are some that are 0%. So, for example, a brand like Ginesque, the Silk Roots, from Old Coach House Distillery, that's 0%. So that starts life a completely different way, doesn't it?
Yeah. So again, so they're just distilled botanicals. You don't need to introduce alcohol into that at any point. To be honest, a lot of the gins and things that are alcoholic, it goes through exactly the same process. Then they just add some alcohol, or some vodka into it. So yeah, it's cutting out that process of adding the alcohol into it.
Interesting. And of course, another thing that has really taken a rise in recent months is kombucha. I'm guessing you sell a lot of that, and there's loads of different types. Just explain, a little bit about kombucha for us, and in your opinion, which are the good, what are the kind of things that make it, because they're so very different, aren't they? I suppose it's because of the tea used and the flavors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've just been having a conversation about kombucha tonight, because Kombucha have relaunched their white kombucha, and we were just trying a glass of it. But yeah, kombucha, that's a fermented tea. I'm not a huge expert on kombucha. It's something that you can give a go at home, albeit if it goes wrong, you might get some brightly coloured ceilings.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, well, in fact, we know about this in the Sober Club, because we have a couple of members who are real experts on this. And the tip, Tom, just so you know, to pass on to anyone else making it, is that kombucha, when you're making it at home, has to be burped. So
okay.
I found that fabulously hilarious. And Bryony from Bucha Kombucha, acquiesce. It's true. You do have to do regular burping sessions.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, no, I haven't tried making, but no. But Bucha Kombucha is a fantastic example of a kombucha, and it's there to be a wine replacement almost. But yeah, we have got quite a range now. I think we've got some where the flavors are very much just based on the teas, like you mentioned. So different tea leaves will give different flavors. So we've got like left field kombucha.
Yeah, that's quite tea-like, isn't it? Left field. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think for a purist, a real kombucha fan, they do really like those flavors. There's also quite a few with some like fruity flavorings. So we've just taken on the Fix8 kombucha. That's also a canned one, which is quite good. And so they're a little bit fruitier. If you need a kombucha, it's not a bad place to start, because sometimes the flavor can be a little bit unusual, but most people get used to it really quickly. And then we also got Nunk kombucha, which is almost like a sister of kombucha, which I do a little bit of learning about. But essentially, it's kombucha blended with honey, and what it means is it takes away that vinegary edge.
Yeah,
so
that
some people, so for some people they're not a huge fan of that. So it's a slightly different kombucha. It's a little bit sweeter, but it has all the antioxidants that regular kombucha does, which is good for your gut and ultimately good for your mental health as well. So that's another variation which has been really popular.
Yeah, I know the other drinks that I think you introduced me to were the kind of, well, we might call them grown-up cordials, if you like. The kind of the syrups is what they really are, or some are called tonics, but they're actually, well, it's something you put in a glass, and shrubs. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Shrubs and syrups, and then we add water. So just to explain a little bit about those, because I mean that's for me that's been a game changer. In the early weeks when if I would go out somewhere and I wanted to be quite subtle about the fact that I wasn't drinking, I'd just kind of take a little bit of whatever it was and pimp my tonic, and I was out. So yeah, tell us about syrups and shrubs.
Yeah, so the syrup we've got in stock is Jeffrey's Tonic.
Yeah, it's a weird name, isn't it? It shouldn't be called Jeffrey's Tonic.
Yeah, no, it is a weird one. Well, I think the story goes that they essentially wanted to make almost like a do-it-yourself tonic that you could then mix with a spirit, be it alcoholic or non-alcoholic. But I think they kind of found that the drinks took off themselves, and they actually, I think, rebranded a few of their flavors now as cordial, just to help people with that understanding. But yeah, you add a bit of soda water or sparkling water to it, and it makes a really fantastic drink. They got a lime flavored one, which is really nice flavor.
Yeah, the flavors are really quite, it's completely different to your kids kind of cordial. It's a different animal altogether, isn't it? You've got these really kind of complex grown up flavors. Yeah, and the shrubs, explain what shrubs are.
Yeah, so that's a type of flavoured vinegar. I don't think we've got many shrubs in it at the moment. But yeah, it's a type of flavoured vinegar that it's a bit like...
I mean, it sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not. Okay.
No, the closest I can sort of say is... so it's something like a cider vinegar, but a little, but obviously a little bit sweeter, but still has that kind of vinegary smell. But again, you can mix them a little bit if they're a little bit strong. You can mix them with a bit of sparkling water.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a really fantastic alternative for an adult drink.
And in terms of the wines and certainly the fizz, I mean, that's one area where I think some brands have really got it right. If you want that kind of celebratory drink, my mantra that I'm always saying is keep the ritual, change the ingredients, and particularly for Christmas and New Year and birthdays and parties, we want to feel like we're also enjoying ourselves with a nice glass of something that's bubbling. We don't just want a cup of tea. And I think that's where the fizzers have they're just amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, no, it's been a really good year for alcohol-free fizz. It's only when we reflected on the year, we realised that we've taken a few extra on, and they've all been really popular. So we've got the likes of like Naughty.
Yeah, Naughty's amazing.
Which is really popular, really enjoyable, and Scavi and Ray.
Scavi and Ray's great too, yeah.
Yeah, which is an Italian prosecco. We've got a few cavas. We've got a Cordonio, which is usually in stock. Unfortunately, it's not at the moment. But we've got a Vallemosso cava as well, and that's been really popular over the festive period. And we will continue to try and add a few more fizzes because, like you said, they're so popular. And of course, we've got the Belwinco, which is a little bit at the lower price end, but so particularly if you want some midweek treats and you regularly like your fizz, that's a really good one to go for as well. And then
we should obviously talk about wine. I'm going to talk about red wine in a moment because that can be the hardest thing. But onto the white wines again. That's not as quite as easy to replace a decent white wine. Or am I wrong about that? What would you say?
I think the white wines for a long time were struggling, but in the last 2 or 3 years, we've got a number in stock now which have really kind of come into their own. I'm just reminding myself because we took some extra ones on. We've got we've taken on a couple of South African ranges at the end of the year actually, and they've been really popular. So we've got a Cognato, which is also a fair trade wine, and they've got 3 varieties. They've got a white, a rosé, and a red. And the white is pretty popular. It's also low sugar.
Is that? Yeah, I was going to ask calorie. You about that.
And then the other white that has also been really popular, particularly in the run up to Christmas, has been Darling Cellars Sauvignon Blanc. Again, it's a South African white, and that's been really popular. But again, you can also use something like the Bucha Kombucha.
Yeah, exactly.
In a wine bottle as well. I would say, on all wines, what tends to happen is if whatever you kind of liked in the alcoholic world, maybe look for a drier wine, and that's what you'll probably like in the alcohol-free world. They can be a little bit sweeter, but the techniques are vastly improved. And that cone technique we talked about is what's used for wine. It's really preserving the flavors.
Right. And if you had to shop in a supermarket, what would you? I know we want people to buy from Wise Bartender, but for those times when you are just going past a supermarket, what would you say is the best that the supermarkets stock? Do you know?
I think Hardee's do a Chardonnay.
Tesco's do that, don't they? Yeah, Hardee's Chardonnay is not too bad. Yeah.
No, that's been quite popular, and people have always sort of said the Ralston's Retreat aren't too bad.
Yeah, I thought they'd stop doing the Ralston's Retreat. White.
They may well have. I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting. And then I must ask you about sugar, because of course, so many people, when they ditch the booze, they get the sugar head on and start, just eating too much sugar. And it's almost like you've got a cross addiction. And on the one hand, you want to keep all of this in check. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is to stay sober. So that means if you got to have a bit of sugar, hey, so be it. But what we don't want to do is load in tons of sugar with these drinks. So where do they sit, in relation to alcoholic drinks in terms of their sugar content?
Well, the good news is they're all. I can't think of any now which are higher in sugar than their alcoholic kind of equivalent. So by switching to alcohol-free, you are reducing your sugar content. That's kind of a fact. There is still, obviously, a number of them still do have a little bit more sugar than you probably, really want within your diet. But like you said, I think, you've got to tackle almost one thing at a time. So if your switch is going from alcoholic drinks to alcohol-free, do that. Get used to a few drinks. You can then start to experiment and see what low sugar options.
Yeah. And what would you recommend then? What are the lowest sugar options?
So beer-wise, a good number of the beers now are low sugar, and some are even completely sugar-free. So that's fairly easy now. On the website, you can sort by whether they're low or no sugar.
Oh, can you?
As well.
That's good.
And we've also got calorie.
I know you've got vegan beers as well, haven't you?
Yeah, about 70% of the beers.
Gluten-free.
Yeah, about 70% of the beers and all the drinks anyway are all vegan anyway. And gluten-free, I think we've got about sort of 8, 9, 10 beers which are gluten-free.
Yeah, cool. And if we wanted something other than beer, where would we then go in terms of the lowest sugar?
Yeah, so wine-wise, we've got the Cognato range, which is South African wine range. They're low in sugar. Spirits are all pretty much sugar-free, so there's no sugar.
Yeah, it's just what you add to it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the only other one is the cider. We are actually about to take on a low sugar cider, but all of them are lower sugar than their alcoholic equivalents. And that's one thing I will mention as well, is that we over the summer we actually brought out our own alcohol-free cider.
Oh, fantastic!
And that is only 27 calories a bottle as well.
Great, that's great.
We did a collaboration with a local cider maker here in Somerset. And so that's been really well received.
Yeah, fantastic. And finally then, Sober Club members desperate for me to ask you about red wine, because you know what they've said here. A few people have said, I've tried them all. I've even tried yours, Tom. The ones you sell, and they just somebody says, why can't the taste of like a Malbec, or why can't it be replicated? Because and somebody said, well, is it that you just can't get that kind of the flavor and the depth that you get with wine? Some people use that phrase mouthfeel, don't they? I hate that phrase, but you know what I mean. So obviously beer, lager is pretty easy to come up with a great drink without alcohol, but it would seem that red wine is hard. So what do you say?
Yeah, can I share my screen, and I will share the
yeah,
panacea.
Please do. Tell us as well though, because for anyone just listening who's not watching it, tell us the name.
Oh, I can't share.
So can you not? Oh, what have you got then? Have you got a smashing new one to tell us about?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I will paste it into the chat as well. Yeah, so this is it's the Darling Cellars one that I was mentioning about previously. So this is a Shiraz, and we got recommended it by one of our customers actually, and we got a sample in from South Africa, and we were so impressed by it that we got a pallet of it straight away, and it sold out in December.
Brilliant.
And then we got a new one in at the end of the month. So it's $6.99. It has the tannins, it has the oaky finish. It's a tiny bit, you'd want it a little bit thicker ideally, but to be honest, it's probably at the moment it's got 5 reviews on there. They're all 5 stars. So it hasn't been available very long on the website, but people are really kind of raving about it.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Well, that's a great tip. The Darling Cellars Shiraz, brilliant. And I always find with alcohol-free red wine that it's just brilliant if you turn it into mulled wine. It's just perfect. If you just warm it up a bit and shove some spices in and some cinnamon, it changes everything.
Yeah. No, I think now we've got this one come out of the market with a Shiraz. I think what we'll start to see is other wine producers around the world will start to think, well, okay, look, something can be done, and it will start to be a race now for the best alcohol-free red wine. So watch this space, because I predict that this year we're going to see more red wines come to market, which have got a really quality, like you said, about that mouthfeel.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course, we must mention cocktails, alcohol-free cocktails, and again, that's an area that has just changed dramatically. People like Camille de Vidal doing just this amazing work, popping up on TV, making alcohol-free cocktails. I mean, who in their right mind would want a regular cocktail? I can't get my head around that, because a cocktail is for me, it's all about the kind of flavor, and it's usually a bit sugary, isn't it? And always got a bit of cream or whatever. So why would you want alcohol in it when there's just so many amazing versions of alcohol-free? Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're having lockdowns, the perfect time to get a few bottles of spirits in you have the time at home and have some fun and try and make some creations.
Yeah.
The Liar's spirits, their aim is...
Yeah, they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, and their aim is you walk into a bar and you say, "Barman, I want a mojito," and they just
exactly
say, alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Yes.
And that's their vision, and actually they're pretty close to the mark on all of their spirits they've produced.
Yeah, I was amazed when I found that Liars, didn't they win some kind of award for their whiskey, for their version of whiskey in a taste test awards that didn't have a non-alcoholic section. So they won up against the regular brands. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And this is what we want. Won't it be great when, it's literally as normal to choose alcohol-free drinks as it is to want alcohol? It'd be great, won't it?
Yeah, it is. And like we said about at the start of this conversation around the on-trade, it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? You need to be asking for the drinks for them to get them in.
Yeah.
But you don't know they're there until they've got them in. So
yeah.
Hopefully it's not going to be too long.
Yeah, but we can all do our bit. Those of us who are into this, we can just encourage more places to stock more choices. Both of the alcohol-free, the wines, the beers, the ciders, but also the kombuchas, more of the artisan tonics, these syrups, these cordials, that we talk about. So it really is changing. It's fantastic. So just remind us of your website then, Tom, where we can, just anything else you want to tell us about Wise Bartender.
Yeah, so it's wisebartender.co.uk. It's actually, we think it might be the world's biggest collection now of alcohol-free drinks.
Wow.
So I think it's over 320 we've got in stock now.
Amazing. So your kids popping up. Hashtag working from home.
Yeah.
Although, as somebody said the other day, for all of us, it's not really working from home, it's living at work, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Tom, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your tips, and thank you for recommending these drinks, and thank you for doing the work you do. It's brilliant. I know it's been quite tough for you, hasn't it? It's tough, with this kind of business over lockdown, but I really hope, particularly if we into another few weeks of people being at home, that people recognize there's so much choice. You do not have to turn to booze.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's the feeling is actually, the first lockdown in particular was very much viewed as a bit of a holiday, and people did sort of perhaps use it as an excuse to drink more often than they would. But by now, hopefully people are realizing it isn't as much of a holiday, and we need to look after our own health. And if we need a few alternatives in the house to help us do that, then there's options out there for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So check out Wise Bartender. And of course, if you're a Sober Club member, we've got discounts as well. We've got loads of competitions that anyone can enter if you want to win some alcohol-free drinks, including a competition from Wise Bartender as well. So make sure you check out thesoberclub.com, have a look at the blog posts and check out the show notes. So I mentioned that I give you just a few top tips if you are doing dry January or if you are starting out on your sober journey. hopefully for longer than dry January. My top tips are the 3 Ps, and they are preparation, and preparation. You know I was going to say that. As I alluded to before the interview, this never works. You never end up doing what you say you're going to do unless you put your prep in place. It doesn't happen automatically. As I mentioned before, what will happen automatically is that you will do what you've always done. And you know the phrase, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. And for this to work, for you to actually make that commitment, you have to actually do a little bit of work and a little bit of prep. But it's not too arduous. It really is a case of getting yourself prepped in the sense that you have made your commitment and you know why you want to do it. The why is so important. There's really little point in just saying, I'll do dry January because I've heard it's a good thing to do. Unless you feel motivated as to your why, there isn't a lot of point. So that brings us back to the WOOP that I talk about so often, WOOP. What is your wish? If it is to do dry January, the next O in that little word is super important, because it's what outcome do you want then? What would that mean for you if you did do dry January? What does it actually mean? What would it look like? And obviously you've got to look at this from the positive point of view. There really is 0 point in doing it if you are just going to grit your teeth and hold on and count the days till you can drink again, moaning and grumbling as you go. You won't be doing yourself any favours at all. You've got to put a positive spin on it and just enable yourself to catch sight of a better life without the booze, and be completely open and curious as to how you might feel at the end of that time and beyond, because I have to warn you, all of the beautiful benefits don't happen within 4 weeks. Sorry to have to tell you that if you're new to the podcast. If not, you'll have heard me say many times that I was fully expecting, when I did my first dry January, which I never looked back from, but I was fully expecting to have lost 2 stone and be sleeping like a baby within 2 weeks. And sadly, I had hideously disrupted sleep, and I probably put weight on because I was caning the sugar. But anyway, so think positively is my point. Be open, be curious as to how much better life might be without the booze. So that means you get the knowledge in, get the logic in, read some of the books that explain this stuff. Get a copy of Happy, Healthy, Sober. Obviously, I'm going to say that on ebook. And you can read in there exactly what alcohol does to your body and why it's not a good idea. But you can quickly then read on to the good bit, which is how amazing life is without it. You can read that inspirational piece. So get inspired and make sure you've made your commitment from a positive perspective and you know your why. So you've got your wish, you've got your outcome. Exactly what will it look like for you? How much better will your life be? What changes might come about if you make this decision? And you might also want to kind of cement that by getting a nice glass jar, and actually draw cash out. I know we don't do that very often these days, but it's worth doing it for 30 days. Draw the cash out that you would have spent on booze and put it in a glass jar and watch it mount up. That's a beautiful thing. Now, you will end up redistributing some of that cash, obviously, because you're going to be buying some alcohol-free drinks or some nice healthy snacks or whatever it is. But it's interesting to look at that cash mount up in that glass jar, because let's face it, where would that money have gone? On toxic poison, literally. So that's a really nice thing to do as part of your kind of outcome. It's also a really good idea to keep a gratitude list, or to journal, to write stuff down every day. Just do a brain dump of how you're feeling. In the early stages, you might not feel able to sit in meditation for 20 minutes or however. I know I certainly couldn't. I couldn't even sit with myself, for God's sake. I didn't really like who I was very much when I was drinking all the time. So you may be the same. You may find that meditation doesn't work for you in the early stages. But you know what? You can pop on a hypnosis audio, or you can brain dump, or you can go for a walk, and all of that stuff helps to just, again, just release some of the thoughts that will be going on for you. The next O is the obstacle, of course, and the next O of the whoop. And of course, that's the important one. What's going to trip you up? Is it your partner saying, oh, come on, just let's have a drink together? What will trip you up? Not many of us are going out and about to pubs and bars at the moment, if anyone, so it probably won't be someone handing you a drink in a bar. I guess we have lockdown to be thankful for that. If you are doing dry January, there's probably never been a better time, because you are, you're not going to have the social pressures. But what will trip you up? Ask yourself, and just write that down. And then the P, of course, is to plan for that. It's the preparation again. So how do you prep for what you will do when whatever it is trips you up? So in the case of my Sober Club member, if she now knows that to prep ahead for the next time her partner says, let's open a bottle of wine, her answer can be, absolutely, let's sit down and have a drink together. She has a lovely wine glass and she has something alcohol-free in it. And whether that is, as we spoke to Tom earlier, it might be one of the lovely botanical spirits. It might be some alcohol-free fizz. It might be some alcohol-free wine. It might be a kombucha. It might be an artisan tonic or a syrup. It really doesn't matter, but something nice in a nice glass so that you keep that ritual going, rather than that little, voice in your head saying, well, this is not fair. They've got a proper drink and I don't. You've got to change that mindset. Also, people really benefit when they have put something else in place. Do something different. Distract yourself from that voice telling you that the only way to numb out is to drink. Go do something different, but have a list of that. I think I may have said in last week's podcast, I suggested to Sober Club members when we did our intention setting workshop that they write a list of 21 acts of self-care. So 21 for 21. Write down 21 things that work for you, resources that work for you. And they can be really little things that lift your spirits. I mean, really little things. We're not talking about trips to the Bahamas. I mean, it'd be lovely, but it ain't happening, right? So little things that work for you, that you might do for someone else. This is often where all of this falls down, because most of us, we talk about self-care, but we don't actually do it for ourselves. We're really good at being kind to other people. So if you've got someone in your family who's feeling a bit down in the dumps or isn't well, it's very common for us to be able to bring to mind. I bet if I asked you now, what could you do for your partner or your child or your mum or whatever within your family if they're feeling really down at the moment? What little things could you do for them? And your answer, I'm sure, will probably be, well, I'll cook their favourite meal, or I'll treat them to some flowers or a nice candle, or I'll run a bath for them and put some salts in and some essential oils, or I'll change their bed linen. I mean, really, really little things that you would do for someone else, because you know that although it's tiny, it makes a difference. But then we forget to do them for ourselves. So if you write your list of 21 for 21 that you'll commit to, and stick it on a notice board or put it on your phone, and then when you start to get these kind of cravings or unhappy thoughts, or you start to feel anxious, just pick one. Just do one. It's always better than just allowing ourselves to keep going over the negativity. So that's the plan. So you've got your whoop, you've got your wish, you've got your outcome. That's the why. Exactly what will it look like? The obstacles. That's where you've got to be really realistic about what is going to trip you up, even if it's your own thoughts. And your prep, your plan. How can you plan so that you have success? Plan for success rather than, thinking, oh, it might go wrong tomorrow. Plan for success. And as you know, we already spoke about the embracing feelings thing. We know that if we're craving a drink, if we're wanting a drink, or sugar, by the way, same thing applies. If you've been sober for ages and now you're battling your sugar demons, really, when we reach for sugar or we reach for alcohol, that's not really what we want. We usually want to create a feeling that we think that substance gives us, right? We aren't reaching for a drink because we really want the taste of that drink. Most of us can remember the very first time we drank alcohol and it made us sick. on account of its poison, right? I know we've become accustomed to the taste, but that doesn't make it right. So we aren't really wanting the taste. And even with the sugar, it's not usually because we're hungry. We aren't eating, for the sake of our stomach, as it were. We're eating to fill an emotional need. We're eating for comfort. And when we recognise that we're a long way down the line then to changing it. If we recognise that we're just reaching for something to try to combat a feeling or to try and create a feeling, then we can start to change it. Noticing it is the first step. So when you feel that craving for sugar, and by the way, I'm pointing a finger totally at myself here, on the sugar front, as soon as that Boris Johnson announced that lockdown the other day, did you notice all the stuff on social media like, 8:05, that's the end of dry January then, 8:10, a whole packet of Jaffa cakes or whatever has gone. It was a real thing, that kind of stress coming at us, this feeling of being out of control, and that's when people reach for whatever we think can help us numb out, and of course it does help us numb out for a while, but is there a price to pay? Hell yes. So what else can we do? Well, we can recognise that that's what we're doing. We can recognise that the feeling we're trying to create is we're either trying to do to reach for the sugar or to reach for the alcohol, or whatever it is for you, in order to numb out, because the feelings are just too difficult. We need to get away from them for a bit, the thoughts and the feelings. Or we use it for other reasons. We use it for confidence, because we want to feel more confident and sexy and all of that. I mean, how amazing that a liquid can do that. Incredible, eh? So once we can see what's been going on, then we can deal with it. And then we can say, well, how else can I get that feeling? And that's where your 21 for 21 comes in, because you of course you won't get obliterated, by using one of your acts of self-care, but you may well lift your spirits and change your state for a while. So when you know that some stuff it's just too much and you just need to step away, find a healthy way to do that. Go and shake your body out, put some music on, dance, go and have a bath, go for a walk, do a hypnosis audio, whatever works for you. And hopefully there's lots of things work for you. And that's where it can really make a difference. But you have to put the effort in, because of course your unconscious mind will want to do what you've always done. So of course it's easiest just to reach for a drink or eat all the pies, or blow out on the biscuits and the sweets, particularly if you're anything like me and you've got a house full of chocolates left over from Christmas. What is that about? But anyway, so we just have to get good at reminding ourselves that we're worth it. And just as we would offer an act of self-care to someone we love, how about doing it for ourselves? So there's some top tips then. I hope that helps. Of course, I would love it if you would invest in Happy, Healthy, Sober, Ditch the Booze and Take Control of Your Life. It's not very expensive. It's only an ebook at the moment, and the paperback comes out in February. And of course, if you want connection, which is also another absolute top tip, it's the piece I didn't have when I stopped drinking. I didn't have that connection, and I'm absolutely convinced that's what made it so much more difficult for me, because I really felt very alone, and I didn't feel supported. Thankfully I didn't give up, but many people do. So connection is a very big piece in all of this. So whatever stage you are, curious, day one, year 6, check out thesoberclub.com, because there's all the connections, support, accountability that you need right there. Make sure you follow me on social media if you're not already, at Janey Lee Grace. You can always reach out if you need help. Don't be struggling. I know that sounds very flippant, because right now, God knows, we're going headlong into the most massive mental health crisis ever. I really believe that. It really worries me, But so please don't suffer in silence. There really is a lot of help out there. Make sure that you rate and review the podcast if you're able to do that. And if you do buy the book, of course, I'd really appreciate a nice review on Amazon or wherever you buy it from. That would make a big difference. I've got some great guests coming up for you in the next few weeks. The podcast is almost 2 years old. Can you believe that? I only remember the other day that I'd started it. I think it was just towards the end of January 2018. So we'll have to do something special for our 2-year anniversary. And I often say this: if you know anyone, or you know of anyone who you think would be a great guest for the podcast, let me know. I can only try and get them on the show. Let me know if you've got any feedback or any thoughts on the podcast. And I really hope that you have enjoyed it. Whatever you're up to, get through this period feeling strong. Let sobriety be your lockdown legacy. Seriously, back into lockdown, and don't cane the booze. I know that's easy to say, but there really is another way. The answer is never, ever at the bottom of a bottle. So Happy New Year again, and I'll see you the same time next week. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.